test automation. Thank you for joining. We've got a great presentation today for you. My name is Christine. I'm a marketing manager at Perfecto Mobile. I'm joined by Iran Kinsbrunner, our Director of Product Marketing, and Brett Lee, our Senior Sales Engineer, who are going to wow you today. Before we get started, I want to highlight a couple things. First, you are all on mute, but there's a question box on your GoToMeeting panel. Feel free to enter any questions you may have throughout the webinar in this box, and the team will be able to answer them at the end of the session or during the session. Don't hesitate if your questions are at a high level, a deep technical level, any level. We've got the experts on hand for you. Second thing, at the end when you sign off, we have a survey about the session, and I ask that you please take 15 seconds to just fill out the survey quickly, because your feedback is important to us and it's what keeps us going. And lastly, I have two commercials. We've got heaps of events that we're attending coming up. The two most recent are Quest, which is next week in Chicago, and if you happen to be attending, Iran Kinsbrunner, who you see on the screen, is presenting Testing Mobile Apps, 3 Dilemmas Solved, and it's on Thursday, April 18th at 11 a.m. in room 22. And at Quest, he's going to talk about when to use real devices versus emulators, testing on local devices versus testing remotely, and lastly, maybe most importantly, how to extend your current ALM system to mobile. So it should be a good one. And then 2 weeks later, we're presenting, and Iran is actually speaking again at SQE Star East in Orlando. And this time, Iran is speaking about mobile testing methodologies, trends, successes, and pitfalls. And that session is Thursday, May 2nd at 11:15 a.m. So if you're attending Star East and you haven't gotten enough of Iran after today, make sure you stop by our booth and don't miss his session. All right, next slide. Let me take you through today's agenda. I've got a brief intro for you in case you aren't familiar with Perfecto Mobile, and then Iran will dive into a mobile market watch, stir things up with some mobile apps type debate, and send you into an intro to objects. And following that, Brett will take the reins and launch into a mobile web automation demo, and then we'll have Q&A. All right, a little bit about Perfecto Mobile for those of you who aren't familiar with us. For those of you who are, I apologize. This will just take a second. We're a mobile application quality platform that provides testing, automation, and monitoring across the entire mobile application lifecycle. We were founded in 2006, a bit before the app market took off, and we haven't stopped since. We're headquartered in Boston and are currently around 100 employees, I believe, with well over 600 customers, many of them recognizable names of Fortune 500 enterprises, top telcos, and SMBs, which you can see on the bottom left. We're continually growing and expanding our customer base across all verticals. We offer a public and private cloud service that supports testing, automation, performance testing, monitoring, several ALM integrations, and CI. And on the bottom right of the slide, you see we integrate with top players in the space like HP, where we're the official solution for mobile, with UFT Mobile, and IBM, Accenture, Atlassian, and the list goes on. So on the next slide, you'll see our mobile cloud platform, which allows your teams to access real devices across live networks anywhere in the world. And next you can see our UI. We've chosen a Galaxy Note and iPhone 4S here to display. Two of the thousands of devices we have available. And we're running a script on both devices towards the left of the screen, even though their operating systems are different. We have a unique automation technology called Script Once. Script Once is device agnostic and reduces risks associated with manual testing by running them automatically across whichever devices you've chosen, like the two that we're showing here. It's pretty great, and if you, I'm sorry, and if you aren't familiar with it, I suggest you take a deeper dive. It can really benefit your mobile app testing environment. So that's enough about us. Let's get to the good stuff. I'm going to pass it off to Iran. Iran, can you take it away?
Yeah, thank you, Christine, and welcome everyone to this session. I hope that you'll find it valuable. As few of you already started asking questions, I encourage you to continue doing so. We will address every question you are asking, either during this webinar or follow up with you after this webinar. I will also be able to share the deck with you. I will share my email at the end of this presentation. So if you need the slide deck, we can share it with you as well. So let's dive in about the mobile market trends. Even though this session is about mobile web test automation, we always need to take into account and be familiar with the ecosystem, with the mobile market, which is, as you know, very dynamic, very fragmented, big, constantly growing, and has a lot of complexities and challenges to the testers. So I will just give 2 or 3 slides about what is the stats today in the mobile market, what are the trends, and then diving into the specifics to mobile web testing, mobile web test automation, and prepare the ground for Brett, which will show you the live demo. So with regards to the market today, we still see that Android and iOS are the leading mobile operating systems, taking almost actually more than 90% of the market, and we have some of the shipments stats here. You will see that out of the 159 million units which were sold in Q4 last year, almost half of these these stats belong to Samsung, which takes the lead for the Android OS platform. And this is like a significant thing to take into account, especially when you choose your mobile devices. So this is just updated stats. With regards to the tablets, which are also a significant platform whenever you are doing mobile testing and mobile development, smartphone and tablets are actually one. You cannot avoid, it's not a new trend, you cannot avoid tablets. And if you see in this slide, Android already stepped into the first place with regards to their market share in tablets, and is with 48% of the market share. If you recall, 1.5 years ago, iPads were mostly the market option with iPads. So now we have 2 strong platforms, and tablets are definitely becoming the main platform for enterprises and business-related applications. It will only grow even more in the next couple of years. You'll see the forecast here. With regards to mobile operating systems, and this is also something which we need to take into account, even though, as I mentioned, 90% of the market are still owned by iOS and Android, Google and Apple, you see here a very large list of challengers who are going to play a significant role, I believe, this year, especially talking about BlackBerry 10 OS, which was launched two months ago, and their 2 new devices, smartphones, are already starting to gain momentum in the market. The Windows Phone 8 and 8.1 operating systems are also starting to gain momentum in the market. And we have a few other open source Linux-based operating systems by Firefox, Tizen, which is a Samsung and Intel project, Ubuntu, and some other operating systems. As mentioned, these entire players are competing on 8% of the overall market, but as a trend, I think that we all need to take into account and follow these operating systems and see who will take the 3rd place. Right now, it seems that Windows Phone and BlackBerry are strongly competing on the third place in the market. Okay, let's specifically move to web, which is our main topic for today, and see how it works. So typically, and usually when you refer to mobile web, at least over the last 1.5 years, people usually talk about HTML5 based applications, and there are several reasons to developing HTML5 applications. As you will see here, this is not yet the largest commonly required platform by developer. As you see here, the developer preference is still for native applications on iPhone and Android, but the momentum indeed goes to web-based applications, especially HTML5. And this is also some trend which is expected to grow. And my understanding and belief is that this trend will grow eventually, while the specification for HTML5 is also a bit more mature. Today we see that there is a lot of fragmentation between the different operating systems running HTML5-based applications. Each flavor of, let's say, Android OS is supporting different features of the HTML5 spec. And analysts and other forums which related to HTML5 predicts that only by 2017 this HTML5 specification will be really finalized and will be common to all platforms. So by then, this is still a fragmented platform. So from mobile testing perspective and mobile test automation perspective, this is definitely a challenge, even though it's a trend which many organizations are moving towards. I wanted to share with you this hype cycle also related to HTML5. Again, this is a web-based webinar. So if you see here in this slide, the positioning of HTML5 by Gartner is that it's not that mature. If you see, it is far from reaching the plateau. And if you see right now, it's in the stages of like a high technology trigger. And as you see in the note I added, the HTML5 ratification will only come to its final stage only, let's say, almost in 10 years from today. So there is still a lot of gaps between the spec, the understanding, the tools, and the way developers are using HTML5 to develop their mobile applications today. Again, this is a challenge for us, the testers. Last slide about which relates to HTML5, and actually it relates to web-based application as well. The fragmentation of HTML5, we already seen it in the previous slide, and I mentioned it as well. This slide just illustrates how far is the gap, or how big is the gap between the different operating systems when it comes to the feature set which is supported by each operating system. So if you see, for example, the Android browser 4.1, so only, you see here, only 12 features out of the spec are partially supported, okay? While, let's say, 76 features out of the overall are fully supported, and there are 45 features, which, when we're talking about feature, like it's functionality gap for this application, are not even supported. And we see the distance even growing with Opera browser and other mobile-related browsers. So we are not really, we are not yet there when it comes to maturity of the HTML5 technology, which definitely impacts the mobile web application development and testing, etc. So bear this in mind as well. This is just fresh new information from the market. Okay. I decided to add this slide into this session, especially because, first of all, we hear a lot when we are going to customers, and I see it everywhere in forums and in social debates. If I'm just starting to develop a mobile application, and I have my debates, okay, should I go hybrid? Should I develop it like a web-based application, or I should go native? So in this slide, I decided to just give you the list of considerations or pros and cons between each type of the application for those of you who are still debating. So just FYI, when we're talking about web-based application, this is an application accessed through the mobile browser on the device, and you can launch it through any browser which is supported on the platform you are running. If it's for Android, you have definitely a larger variety of browsers. For iOS, you also have Safari, you have Dolphin, and other commonly used browsers, Opera, Firefox, etc. When you're dealing with hybrid applications, hybrid is a much more advanced level of web application because the web client is wrapped within a native framework, and this enhances the capabilities to the end user, allowing him to access the native functions of the device. It can be contact list, can be a camera, GPS, contact list, calendar, and things like this, which they are not accessible when you're running from the web-based browser, web-based application. And the native, which is the totally opposite type of application, it's developed under the operating system language. For Android, it's Java. For iOS, it's Objective-C. And this is much more expensive from resources, time, support, etc. But it has the other advantages, such as, and here are the collection of pros and cons. So for the native, you will gain definitely much more higher performance, faster graphic performance, because it works on the device. You will have full access to the native functions of the device, native APIs as mentioned here. You can easily work with the tools. You have more tools to work with when developing the application. You have SDKs and things like this dedicated for developing native applications. For example, for iOS, you'll definitely work with the Xcode, etc. And then you see the opposite, the differences with regards to the other applications. So you would decide, in any case, there is not a true or false here. There is not a true white and black decision here. You need to decide from resources perspective and functionality what is the best path to choose. Here I'm giving you just the pros and cons, and you will decide. Before we are diving into the objects and web and the juicy stuff, I will just ask you to cooperate with us on a poll around the mobile web testing. It would be a good kickoff for the entire session which you are just now entering. So I will just launch the poll. Please fill it as you think. So in the poll, I'm actually referring to the top mobile web automation challenges or pains which you are facing or you are about to face. And thank you for voting. I see that the votes are being collected as we speak. So as you see in the screen, so we have definitely specific unique challenges in mobile web. It can be cross-platform scripting. It can be the access to the DOM level, DOM object tree and DOM object itself, HTML object. I will refer to it in a moment. And the debate of how to work with the mobile application with regards to object recognitions. There are various types of objects also which you need to take into account when working on the mobile web. So thank you for voting. I will just close the poll. Here you see the results. So it's definitely clear that most of you voted around proper cross-platform scripting solution as the top concern or challenge, and the rest talked about extending existing web automation scripts to mobile. Okay, so let's continue. Let's do a brief introduction to objects. After this introduction, it will be much more easier for you to understand the demo which Fred is going to present to you. So when you're talking about objects, the objects for any applications, I'm not only referring to web applications. As we mentioned, we have 3 different types of mobile applications. Objects are like the building blocks of your application. It's all the elements on the application screen which you can work with. It can be buttons, it can be edit box, list, you name it, and it relies on the developer on how to represent them, on how to develop them. The development of the application has a strong implication on how you will definitely work with your automation solution and how easy it will be for you to develop test automation if, for example, and we'll see it in a bit, the objects are not unique in a web application in the DOM. If the unique ID for an object is not clearly developed and defined, you will have problems to identify and work with similar objects on the device screen, and then you will need more advanced techniques, and we will show you also how to overcome it in this webinar. So, as mentioned, objects are the building blocks. We have various solutions today in the market. Perfecto supports all of them. Perfecto Mobile supports all of them, and these are not new to anyone, I guess. So we have the visual objects being recognized through OCR, and we'll probably show you as well how to work with OCR throughout this webinar. OCR is the optical character recognition method technique. It's an engine which allows you to identify the object as you see them on the screen via character recognition. We have an additional method of objects, or different type of objects, and these are the OS object level, and these are the objects part of the application. So in order for you to develop automation, you will need to gain access to the application native IDs, and you need to be able to obtain the unique object IDs from within the application. Okay, it can be a cross-platform recognition, it can be a per-platform recognition, and we know that there are challenges today in the market, especially when talking about iOS, which is a closed environment, closed operating system. So gaining the objects from the iOS is definitely a challenge. We have support for both OCR and OS level for iOS as well, without the need to jailbreak the devices. So this is something which was a big challenge in the market, and currently we are able to face it. And then we have the third level of objects, and this is the DOM. The DOM object, and I will talk about DOM and what it means. DOM is like a shortcut for Document Object Model, and this is a cross-platform and language-independent convention, and this is how basically you would represent the HTML page and the flow in the page, and the tree, the nodes, the relations between the various objects which you see in the HTML web page. This is how they are being represented at the back end in the form of XML, for example. And you see here in a DOM Explorer image in the screen here how a DOM object is being represented. If you see in bold here, each object in the DOM tree has a unique ID. It has a type, it has a name, and you can identify it in different ways and methods. We will see it in a bit. So this is like the core object tree for web-based applications. Today, in the desktop area and on web test automation, typically users are using Selenium via Eclipse or other tools to obtain the DOM tree and the DOM objects via XPath and other techniques. We'll get into it also during this session. Moving on. Still in the DOM, as I mentioned, DOM objects are the core behind the the HTML web page. And if you see here, this is taken from the Firefox, Mozilla Firefox browser on a desktop. This is the web screenshot, and this is the webinar registration page which all of you went through. So if you see in this image, within the lower bar, using Selenium and XPath, there are other tools today which you can identify and see the DOM objects in the backend. So you see here in the DOM, in the first name edit box, you see the ID in the right lower panel. ID title is name underscore first. Okay, you see first name, the label. The object ID, the DOM object ID, is named name first. Okay, so this is typically how you would work with automation on a desktop. You will identify the various objects as you see here using DOM, XPath Finder, XPath Checker, Selenium, you name it, and develop your automation to put values into these pages and various objects. Now, in the next screen, you will see the exact same page being accessed through our system on an HTC One XL device. If you see here, this is the same login page for our current webinar, okay? And using our techniques for mobile web automation, the object spy, if you will, you see here that, again, we were able to identify, like we did on the desktop, in a mobile device, we retrieve the control ID or the DOM object ID, called, again, name first, as you see on the desktop. It's the same parameter, same object, as you see on the desktop, being used in mobile. This will be like your first step. If you would like to automate this web page, you need to address and find and identify the various objects. If you see on the lower side in this screen, you see the text name first and the ID name first. This is how you would see if you do a page source view on the registration page. You will see the same value, and this is the value which Perfecto Mobile retrieves and gives you as an input, as a parameter for you to use in your automation scripts. So this is a strong point which you need to take into account when developing automation. You need to be able to get object IDs from the DOM as from, say, native OS objects for web automation. However, this is not the only way to do web automation. In some cases, when the object IDs will be problematic, there are techniques which you can use, and there is also the way of using OCR, the visual analysis, to retrieve more complex or more tricky objects, and we'll get into it also during this session. This is the last slide before we move to the live demo, just showing you one of the automation challenges, and this is a table, and as I mentioned, I will share with you the slides at the end of the session. Whoever is interested, just drop me an email, which I will publish, and I will send you the deck. Here you will see the difference between the object level analysis and OCR, the pros and cons, when to use each method. In the lower side of the screen, you will see two different screenshots, one taken from an iPhone, the left one, and the other is taken from a Samsung Galaxy Note 2. The same web page being accessed through the Safari browser and the WebKit browser on the Android. You see that it's differently represented on both screens. For example, if you would like to get the exact value seen on the text box, how much would, for example, this is the long string, you will not be able to get it as a parameter, as an object, if you would use OCR. OCR will only give you the how much would a. Okay, this is the string which you see on the screen. This will be the results while using OCR. It will show you whatever you see on the screen. If you would like to get the entire value seen on the edit box here, you will need to use OS level objects. It will be DOM object, as I referred to in the previous slide. And this will be the only method for you to work with automation. So the best practice would be to use both OCR and DOM object, native object, in order to get maximize script automation across the different platforms. And each platform and browser definitely behave differently. So playing with the different tools and solutions is a key for strong automation here. So just summarizing the considerations and moving to the demo, using the hybrid object approach, as I mentioned here, we have the DOM objects and the OCR visual analysis. Use both of them smartly, wisely. Brett will definitely refer to this. Definitely you need to take and prepare the right matrix of devices. Even if it's about web, you saw the fragmentation, you saw the supported features on each browser, on each device, on each OS. You cannot ignore the complexity and the large matrix that you need to support. Even for web testing, it's crucial, and there are ways of achieving it. We also have white papers on that topic, and you can also request these, and we will provide it to you. Typically, when talking about mobile performance, about mobile web, you come to think about doing mobile performance and monitoring. It's definitely a must. You need to monitor and test for performance across different networks, across different devices and platforms and geographies, 3G, 4G, how your application and service will work on large load against the backend server. This is also something which you need to take into account. It's not in the scope of this webinar. We'll have follow-up webinars in the nearest future also about performance and monitoring, so stay tuned. And cross-browser testing is also something imperative, and each browser will behave differently, and you cannot ignore it, and you cannot mandate your end user, in opposed to desktop, to just use one browser. You need to do some serious testing, at least on the top few browsers on each mobile platform. So without further ado, I would turn the stage for Brett and for the demo, which we'll all be waiting for. So I'm turning it to you, Brett, and enjoy.
Great. Thanks,
Second.
Ron.
Okay, take it away, Brett.
You can see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So what I will be demonstrating today is our automation capabilities, both in our native automation tool as well as with HP's Quick Test Professional. And I will highlight the object recognition options that you have with our automation tool, as Ron has talked about during the presentation. So what you're seeing here is our native automation screen. You can see that it's basically an embedded browser that you can access via Chrome, via IE. It is simple to access. And for those of you that may not be familiar, these are actual devices that are sitting in our cloud that you can interact with both manually as well as in an automated fashion. What I have here is an automation script created in our native automation tool to be able to execute a script against the Bank of America online application. And the first thing that I want to show you is this script executing on both devices via the iPhone as well as the Galaxy. And as a note, this script utilizes both OCR as well as native object properties to be able to interact with the objects on the screen. And for all the links and buttons and objects that this particular script is interacting with, it is using native properties, but the checkpoints that is actually verifying the visual properties on the application, it is using OCR. The reason for this is you want to make sure that your end users, when using your application on their devices, is actually seeing what you expect them to see from a text perspective as well as from an image perspective. So let me go ahead and take a look at the report and show you all the individual steps that have been executed. And you can see here that it takes screenshots for all of the individual steps that the script interacts with. And you can see the full video as well of the video playback for the script being executed on the device. Now I can go ahead and execute this exact same script on the Galaxy simply by changing the device under test. So now you can see that, this exact same script, both for the iPhone as well as the Galaxy, you can utilize the same steps, the same objects, to be able to recognize and execute scripts on both devices. Now let me dive into a little bit about the object recognition. In the steps that are executing here, you can see that it interacts with different objects on the screen: edit boxes, buttons, images. If I double-click on one of these objects, for example, this edit box that's set for the zip code, you can see here our wizard to allow you to interact with the objects on the screen and recognize the objects on the screen. In the analysis source, you have multiple options to be able to recognize the object. The primary option is utilizing something called Object Character Recognition, or OCR. And what this does, it actually looks for the object label or the visual text of what you're looking for in zip code. You can see that in this case, because there are multiple instances of the word zip code on the screen, that it recognizes it regardless of the type of object that you're looking for. Okay? In this case, this is not what we want. Rather than looking for the OCR property, we actually want to look for the native property of that text. And if I hit try again here to verify that, you can see that it's looking for the correct edit box because it is looking for the label of that edit box, which is zip code. And this is looking into the DOM for the object on the screen. Now, there are a couple of benefits to both options. With using native properties, you can now look for exactly the object regardless of what the visible text is for that particular object. But for verifications, in case you want to make sure that certain images are showing up correctly, for example, this Bank of America logo, you actually want to look for the OCR property of that particular object. In our latest release, we also have an object spy available to allow you to analyze all of the objects on the page. And this is what you're seeing here. For each object, you can see a highlight signifying the location and which objects are available on the screen. And if I click on one of the objects, for example, the zip code edit box, you can see the different functions that are available for this edit box as well. You can do a get command for this particular edit box, which is getting the text that is inserted in that edit box. You can do an info function that allows you to get the information of that particular edit box, and a set command that allows you to set the edit box to a certain value. So utilizing the object spy, you can break down each page, the different objects on each page, as well as the functions that are available on that page as well. As an example, I can go ahead and open up a script that allows me to execute and look for the actual source code of a particular page. In this case, CNN.com. So what you're seeing in this report is a breakdown of the particular page and the actual source code that is associated with that page. This is something that you can now utilize in conjunction with your test cases to be able to debug and troubleshoot certain issues on a page. For example, a broken link, etc. You can also look for the URL of each page to verify that your links are taking you to the correct subsequent web page in your browser. Finally, I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate this to you in QTP. So for those of you that are utilizing HP's automation tool called Quick Test Professional, you will see an embedded UFT mobile browser directly in QTP to allow you to do the same automation capability that you saw just now in the native automation. I can go ahead and open up that same device. And I can now create a simple QTP script that allows me to walk through the test case that I showed you earlier. And what you're seeing here is straight VB script. And for those of you that are familiar with QTP, this is an easy extension to what you are currently doing today. Okay, so as I run this script, you'll also notice that the object spy is available in this view as well, which allows you to analyze the page via the object spy directly within QTP and be able to add scripts and add test steps directly within this view as well. What you'll also notice as part of this wizard is an additional mobile web option for those of you that have been currently utilizing our solution with native automation as well as with QTP. This allows you to operate and interact with mobile web applications in a more robust and deeper way. And one example is being able to get the source code of mobile websites, as I showed you earlier in my previous script. So once the script finishes executing, I will go ahead and show you the QTP results view and allow you to see the different screenshots and results that have been captured by this particular script. So you can see that here in this case, the script actually failed. And we can take a look at why the script failed by looking at the detailed analysis of the report. Here what I can do is go ahead and break down each of my steps. And I can see that at a certain point, the ATM did not show up correctly. And for each of these steps, I can also take a look at the screenshots that are available here, as well as a video of the live playback for the device. So with our solution for automation, both in native as well as with QTP, you have the ability to interact with your applications, both in terms of OCR as well as on a deeper level for the DOM. And you can take advantage of that flexibility to verify your applications in a more robust way. Being able to interact with it using both OCR as well as native, and being able to verify that your end users are seeing the things they need to see on your application from an OCR perspective. With that, I'll go ahead and turn it back to Aran to go ahead and close this session.
Thank you, Brett. It was really impressive, and I believe that together with the intro about native objects and the OCR, both with the demo of UFT and our native solution. I hope that the audience got a feeling of what is a robust mobile web testing solution and what it requires. Just summarizing a few of the talking points from today, what I believe, if you are an organization, and I see it every time when I'm visiting a customer, and you are debating into entering mobile web testing, my recommendation to you would be the following. First of all, of course, do the proper market research and analyze what are the top devices which you need to test and use during your project. And this is dynamic and it changes, and you need to be with your finger always on the spot and read the relevant articles. We always hand over to our customers one of our white papers around choosing the right mobile devices in your project. We feel that this is a critical element in the project lifecycle. Once you define your mobile devices and you know where you are heading to, and as I mentioned in the beginning, the mobile web is also a fragmented one and requires a lot of thinking and requires a lot of consideration from the aspect of which browser I'm going to work on which browser I'm going to do the manual testing and automation. And I have not mentioned in today's webinar the importance of doing manual testing, so I'll just address it in a bit. I think that the joint test planning, which takes into account both automation and manual, and in mobile you cannot really automate everything. We had a question in our panel, and thank you for participating and asking questions. These are great questions, by the way. So one of the questions was about how do I decide what to automate and where to automate? And it goes not only with regard to mobile web testing, it's also relevant to native applications and others. You cannot avoid doing manual testing as well, and you need to take into account the interoperability aspect, incoming calls, incoming events, such as emails and things like this, loss of reception, roaming, and other aspects, and you can do most of these manually. And on top of this, you will then inject your automation solution, as we showed you in this webinar. So moving to the automation aspect, as Brett identified here, you can leverage different types of automation techniques, and we're talking about objects such as OCR, visual objects, and we're talking about native objects, DOM objects. The combination of both, as I mentioned, have a strong impact on your automation and regression testing and the stability of your entire infrastructure. So go through the slides, go through this webinar recording, which we'll publish, and see what you should definitely use in your development, in your automation development, so it will last for future versions, future devices, and you'll need to do less maintenance on these devices. Last, and I think that this is also an important aspect, do consider, I think that it's also a critical thing in your entire application lifecycle, branding and reputation, doing performance and monitoring for your mobile web applications. We see it a lot unfortunately, in the app stores. We see large organizations deploying web application, native applications, and are failing to do proper QA testing on them, proper test development on them, and the result comes to them also through the branding and through the app stores and through the ratings. We see applications fail to run on key devices, such as seen here on the screen, iPhone 4S, which is a top leading device in the market. The Samsung Galaxy S3 is getting poor ratings and scoring in key business critical applications. So do monitoring, do performance testing, and also listen to the market. The market has a lot of impact on you, and somehow the QA and testing today is done too much by the end users, and this must change, because the end user is definitely less tolerant, less patient to pitfalls, to bugs, to defects, to unsupported features on the devices. and you need to also pay attention to it. So with this insight, I would like to say thank you both to Christine and Brett for the demo, and I would also like to thank all of you for joining. I would just like to share my email with you. So if you would like to get the slide deck or ask any questions around this session or any other related topic, such as the mobile web testing, mobile test automation, you should see it here on the screen. You can either contact us through info@perfectomobile.com or simply drop me an email. You can find me also on LinkedIn on our Mobile Performance Testing Center of Excellence, Mobile Testing Center of Excellence, and on Twitter, or simply through this email, and I would be happy to address any questions or inquiry you will have. And I really hope to see you in the nearest events we have. As Christine mentioned, we have next week a session in Chicago, and we have a large conference in Saris, a large booth, and I will also be presenting there as well. So I look forward to touching base with you in the nearest future. Thank you for joining, and thank you for being with us.